Our next finalist, Gene Chizik. Gene has had an amazing coaching career. Think about this. In 2004, he won the Broyles Award as a defensive coordinator at Auburn. Then he was hired by Mack Brown and the Texas Longhorns, and he helped them win a national championship in 2005. A few years later, he was hired by Auburn as their head coach, and in just 2 years, he led them to a national championship in 2010. He had one bad season at Auburn, and he was let go. And for the next 2 years, he did a great job as an analyst on radio and television. We also even had him here to speak to the Touchdown Club, did a great job. But this year, he jumps back into the game as a defensive coordinator for North Carolina. And what does he do in 1 year? He produces the biggest turnaround defensively of any team in the country and winds up right back here in Little Rock as one of America's top assistant coaches again.
Gene Chizik, North Carolina.
Attaboy, Jonathan. Get better every day, son.
11 months ago, Gene Chizik inherited a Tar Heel defense that last season allowed a lot of yards, 498 a game, and points, 39 a game. This season under Gene Chizik, it was back to the basics, and with the same players, Chizik's defensive unit showed the most dramatic improvement of any defense in the country. They went from allowing almost 40 points a game to surrendering just 22 points a contest. They chopped almost 100 yards a game off the total defense number, but the biggest jump under Gene Chizik came in pass defense. His Tar Heel D is ranked 17th in the country in pass efficiency and 20th in passing yards allowed. These numbers are more impressive when you consider the fact that 3 of the Tar Heels' 5 defensive tackles are freshmen, and only 1 starting lineman hasn't missed a game due to injury. He coached a national championship team. He's won the Broyles Award. Today, another very deserving honor for Gene Chizik. North Carolina's defensive coordinator is a 2015 Broyles Award finalist.
What a great honor to be back here. It's truly, truly a privilege. Coach Broyles, you know, it's awesome to see your family here and to, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, so I was here 11 years ago. And so now I'm back and I see Betsy and Molly, and I think Hank is here as well. And one of the things that resonates with me that's very clear is how close your family is. And that's really, really a cool deal. And, you know, this day and age with college football coaches, you get caught up in so many different elements of the game that sometimes the family kind of gets second fiddle in a lot of cases because you're busy with so many things. And that's what I'm going to talk about here in a minute is family and the things that are important to me. But I do want to say, you know, David, it was 11 years ago, and I was here, and, you know, you'd made the comment that, you know, you're creating trophies instead of babies, but 11 years ago, you were still single, so I'm assuming that it's not your choice, that no one is willing to have babies with you.
Touche. Very good.
I'm not really sure, but 2 and 2 equals 4, but.
That's good.
Then the other thing that I wanted to get clear before we kind of get started is here, I'm with you, Tom, the committee, the selection committee, outstanding. But I feel like Mack Brown should have 5 votes. Can that happen? No. Listen, I have had an unbelievable career. And I'm very honored to be back up here again for the second time. You know, people ask me, you know, why did you get back into it? And why did you decide to go to North Carolina? And so let me give you a little bit of evolution of my career. Like David said, I was really, really blessed as an assistant to be under some really great head coaches. Went 3 consecutive seasons, basically undefeated. And it was an amazing journey for me as an assistant. Then I became a head coach. And one of the things that I realized, as Tom is realizing now, is that when you become a head coach, you're only as good as your assistants really are. And that is very, very true, which, Coach Broyles, that's why I'm so appreciative of this. I was telling Coach last night, when I was at the University of Texas, I would fly on away games, and Coach Darrell Royal would sit right next to me. And I would always pick his brain just on, you know, football and wisdom, and Coach Royal was a very quiet man. One of the things that he told me is that he had an assistant named Coach Campbell, I believe, and that he said that with all of his success, Coach Campbell was always there with him, and that there was no way he could have accomplished what he did without Coach Campbell. And I was an assistant at the time. It made sense to me, but it really, really made sense to me when I became a head coach. And so to be up here, look, I'm on the downside of my career. And all these guys up here are really young and got great, great futures ahead of them. And I'm really honored to be up here with these guys because, man, I wish you guys the best. You guys are definitely on the upswing of your careers. And so it's really cool for me to be back here and kind of be the old man of the bunch, right? And but as David was saying, you know, I got let go at Auburn after having a pretty disastrous year. 2 years earlier, obviously, we won the national championship. But I understand the business. And it's a business of what have you done for me lately? That's not just Auburn, that's anybody. And, you know, there's so much money involved. There's so many different factors in there that you need to win, and you need to win big, and there's just not a lot of patience. And if you don't like that or you can't handle that as a coach, you got to get out of the business because that's just the way it is. So you can't let your feelings get hurt. You can't read and let social media, and because the problem with social media now is that everybody's got an opinion. So it used to be just where if you read the newspaper, that particular columnist had an opinion. Well, now everybody's got one. And if you listen and you read and you let that hurt your feelings, whether you're a top assistant or you're a head coach, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. And that's why I want to come to my family. Tom mentioned thanking your wives. We talked about this last night. My wife, unfortunately, couldn't be here today with me. We'll be married 20 years this summer. I married my high school football coach's daughter. That's pretty brave, right? Those first family dinners were very awkward. But the wives, it's a grind. And for the wives, it's incredible what they have to endure, you know, when you're at a high-profile job. And it just comes with the territory. And you have to have the right partner to really deal with that. And family is the most important thing. I've got twin daughters that are 18 years old. They are my life. My son is 15 years old. He is my life. It's all about family. Because, see, let me tell you something. We have a perception about us as coaches, and we get liked or disliked basically in direct proportion to how many wins or losses we have. That's the way it is. It's never changing. People don't know you. People have no idea who you are as a person. They like you or dislike you based on your record, right? That's the way it goes. But unfortunately, the wives are left at home to pick up the pieces for the kids that don't really understand that. Why do they hate daddy, right? Or why do they love daddy so much? Well, it's because you've won 13 games, right? And they have to really be the stronghold, and they have to be the head coach of the house. And it is an unbelievable task. And I said when I got let go at Auburn, before I let anything affect my family, I'll lay asphalt. You know, I don't care what I'll do, but I'm not letting anything get to my family. You know, when I was a head coach, it was amazing because when I was a head coach, I was very protective of my family. My interviews were very straightforward. I really didn't give away anything, or everything I said was very calculated because I never wanted to come back and haunt my family, my children at school, and things of that nature. Then all of a sudden I started doing radio and TV, and they're like, oh, you got a personality. Where'd that come from, right? You know, because I could be me. And again, it all comes back to your family. Because when it's all said and done, that everybody, when it's not going good, who tar and feather you, okay, which has happened to me, there's only a very, very small group of people right now that are always going to be there for you. And that's going to be your family. I used to tell Cam Newton as he started to become Cam Newton, and I said it to him almost weekly, as your world grows, make sure your world shrinks. Because at the end of the day right now, you've got your family and you've got about 5 people or less that you can count on one hand who are really, really in your corner because they love you, whether you're a football coach or a school teacher or you direct traffic out there in front of the school with an orange flag. I mean, that's who loves you. And so all this football stuff is great. And so I'm very honored to be back here and things of that nature. But this isn't the most important thing to me. It just isn't. So for me, I always say this. Football coaching is what I do. It's not who I am. It's that simple. So when the football world starts to become who you think you are, then that means your daily life is based on wins and losses and how people perceive you. And I just refuse for that to be the case with me. So I've gotten back into the business. People say, why North Carolina? You know, every decision I make right now, the 2 years after I got let go, I'm staying home with my family. My daughters were 15 or 16 at the time. My son was 12 or 13. I'm taking 2 years, and I'm going to be with my family, and I am going to enjoy the crap out of it. And I did. For 2 years, I had a blast. That's when I came and talked with you guys at the Little Rock Club, and I just had a blast with it. And I'm just to a point in my life where I'm not making any decision unless it's a quality of life decision. So when I decided to get back in, after several opportunities and declining them, I went to North Carolina because, number one, I wanted to work for a guy that I knew was like me and that I could walk into that building every day and be extremely happy on what is the man and who is the man that I'm working with. That's Larry Fedora. And I've known him for 20 years, and I said, this would be a great working environment. And then the competitive part in me said, you know what? You're not going out like that. You're not going out like you went out. I was 3-9, but I knew I was a dang good football coach, and I knew I had a lot of great assistants that I could hire and bring with me and turn something around and take a challenge and do it. But I was not going out like that. So I was going to, if I was getting back in, I was going to make sure that it was the right situation for me. I evaluated everything. When I took the job, everybody's like, why North Carolina? Why isn't it this school in the SEC or that school in the SEC? Because that wasn't the quality of life decision that I wanted. And I wanted to make a decision that I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt, if I worked hard and did the things that I needed to do, we weren't going to fail. We weren't going to fail. So you're never as good as people think you are, and you're never as bad as people think you are. And we were good, and we weren't good because of Gene Chizik. We were good because I had a defensive staff that is unbelievable, that we were all first-time staffers together. John Papuchis was our linebacker coach. Charlton Warren was our secondary coach. And Trey Scott was our defensive line coach. And each one of them could be standing up here right now because they're all responsible for this same award. And so it wasn't Gene Chizik. It was a culmination of a lot of guys putting in a lot of hours and football players that bought in and said, I'm tired of taking the rap for being bad. And we changed the way they thought, and we made them compete. And we made them have an expectation and a standard that was only one way, and anything under that was not acceptable. And that's what we did. It's not rocket science, and I told them that all the time. We're not here building rockets. We're playing football. You block, you tackle, you be accountable for what we're asking you to do in the defense, and we'll change. But it was a lot of great people that helped me do that. I'm blessed to be here. I'm excited for just the opportunity to be here with these great coaches. But I will say this, and I'll leave with this. Family is always first. And if you put anything, young coaches, if you put anything in front of your family, as demanding as this job is, in my opinion, you're doing it wrong. Always keep your family first. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care what church you're in. I don't care what you do. Your family is always first, because when everything else fails and when everything else goes to hell in a handbasket, they'll all be there for you. And that is undefeated. So thank you again for letting me be here, and God bless.